Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Wales of Wall Street. We have XLM Stellar on the chart here today. Loads of videos to get through, so I'm not going to do any project nonsense today. We're just going to simply go into what I've been doing in terms of moves of the chart and anything else that stands out, in my opinion, for the moves coming forward. So without further ado, let's go straight into XLM. So of course, most of the market at the moment has been on a bit of a downward trend. That hasn't been a short-term thing. That's actually been going on for quite some time, to be honest. Particularly in XLM Stellar's perspective, actually taking up those nice points here from July upwards. It's very much been going on since September, October, with a nice move upwards. But then we get to that kind of November area, and that's very reflective on a lot of charts out there. So I wouldn't say it's been like mega disappointing, because it hasn't actually reduced significantly. Of course, it's been a bit boring to watch, and me personally, I love it when it's boring, because that means the momentum, the narratives have moved away slightly from it. The project still exists, the development of the project still exists as well. So for me, I'm kind of like thinking, well, hang on a minute. I'm sure there's some great moves to come, because don't forget, earlier, it's now next year. But last year, of course, we had this wonderful tail. I mean, look back here, January. It's quite an interesting one, actually, because if we go to around about where we were this time last year, we did have this significant jump up from like 13 cents all the way up to here to 40 cents. I remember it very well. And we had a bit of stabilization down here, but very much around this time last year, we're pretty much bang on where we are sat right now. Crazy, right? So if you fell asleep in January last year and you woke up today, you probably be like, what did I miss? Nothing. But actually in that period of time, we had some significant all-time highs across the map. And of course the correctional periods along there as well. But what you've got to anticipate is from these lower areas of around 10 cents, arguably where I was buying a lot of them was around sort of 12 to 15 cents anyway, my big initial buys, we have had a lot of price discovery. And on that correctional period down, we can't get support at any of these. But what's really interesting is, from a trend line perspective, from these lower regions to kind of where we are now, is that XLM has pretty much been trying to drag itself down to its kind of real coordinated price. Okay, so what I mean by that is the aspect of where Stellar is as a project, what it's got coming in the future, of course, can be absolutely huge. But right now is like, from the sort of retail investor perspective, it was perhaps majorly overpurchased. That's why we saw significant, huge patterns upwards, of course, on RSIs and everything went absolutely parabolic. But the crash came pretty imminently after that, dragging it down quite quickly, in my opinion, in such a very short space of time. And between 2 or 3 months, we had gone from that 70 cent mark all the way back down to here, around 20 cents. So actually lower than where we are currently. But we've had some new higher lows along the way, bringing ourselves up to this kind of like correctional price of around 25. It's a really magnetic point right now, as it has been on a number of occasions in the past as well. So, Simon, why have you drawn an orange line here, as well as looking at these Fib retracement lines? We'll go into that in a second. But very much where we are right now, sat at 25.5 cents. You've got the performance indicators on the right hand side here, 8% down on the week, 6% down on the month. I think that's quite good, actually. And what that is showing, hopefully, is that turning around very soon, because we're at the sort of lower spectrum of that. And the 3 months is, of course, still showing quite a relatively big reduction there of 23% as well. But that does take in quite a bit of movement there over the last 3 months. So it's anticipated. But 6 months is still looking really strong. So we're hanging in there. And I think this is why I'm talking about this 25, 26 cent mark as being really, really important. Why we're looking at that, and why have I put in here a potential buy order of just over the 20 cent mark. We'll go into that in a second, but I can very much tell you right now, I've been buying XLM over the last few weeks anyway, especially under this sort of 30 cent bracket we mentioned in the previous video. I think anything under 50 cents for XLM is absolutely phenomenal. Hopefully we will have a bull run coming at some point this year, where we will look at these prices and see significant gains way beyond, hopefully, those 80% marks that we saw last year around May time. So lots of things you need to consider. Stellar obviously being very heavily involved in CBDC, so we've got to look at the traction of that throughout the year in the narratives, in the real world, mainstream media, etc. And also things like mechanisms of what's going on in the pandemic, what's going on with things like food shortages, this, that, and the other, because it does affect markets everywhere, whether you're in crypto or stock markets, whatever. There's no doubt about it. Confidence is very much a big game, part of the game here as well in investing. So where I'm looking at right now, of course, we just mentioned about these touch points here back in September, more recently here in December, but as well, the nice, I call it like the magnetism, if you like, around this area, patrolling back in June, and some really significant points here. That's another reason why I've drawn in the 2.2-ish cent mark, which is relating back to actually 2020, because of the quite significant moves we've had over this period of time. I'm looking at the cycle a bit longer term as well as short term. So these touch points are of great interest. We're very much at, in my opinion, this real confirmation level of Stellar XLM. It's really trying to nail this sort of marker where we are exactly today, based on relative areas in the past. I've drawn the lower area because of these significant areas in terms of resistance that we saw back here at the tail end of 2020. I've seen the resistance of the pullback down, stopping it from going further. And then, of course, we had the great parabolic run, and we got dragged back down to this area. And actually, you see the small dip downs, particularly here in June. Obviously, came down under for literally 2 or 3 days in July. So there's not too many points, really, if you look at it in terms of areas. 1, 2, 3, 4. Couldn't do it here. And we did like have the Bitcoin failure leverage day. What was it? Maybe a month ago now. It's crazy how time flies. We've had some recent leverage failures in the last couple of days, hence why the market's looking a bit tedious in the last 48 hours or so. And Stellar is, of course, showing that as well. So for me personally, like I said, I've been buying XLM anyway, anything under 30 cents every few days. I sort of monitor the market. As soon as it hit back down to this previous drop down that we saw here on end of December, and we did that literally yesterday, I think it was, I was buying back here at 26 cents. It's very much flowing around here, but what am I waiting for right now? Well, I'm waiting for confirmation of this fib retracement level here at 25. Can we get support? Is this a support line? If it is, we'll probably see a reflective bounce back, and that's going to look really healthy for XLM moving forward in the coming weeks. However, there may be some more leverage possibilities over the next few days. That's what I'm just keeping an eye out for. So I have got a bag of USDT waiting back here, not for the sheer hell of it, but because of historic data, pinpoints of those areas. And of course, when we did see big leverage drops for the second wave of failures, it did pull us back down to around about here in particular on the 4th of December, 22.3 cents. So that's why I've put one just around that mark or slightly above it, just in case we do have a bit more of a pull down. But there's some really interesting points I want to pull out for the last 2 days. One, obviously we haven't finished the closing today, but what's really interesting is the sort of levels of volume that the candles are essentially closing on. This is showing to me that there's not a huge influx of money coming in, and there's not a huge influx of money going out either. So it's very much stabilizing. There's big investment in XLM. The volumes are still kicking in on a daily basis. So I feel confident. I feel confident that this is a very reflective point in XLM. Like I said, there's still an opportunity for MA coming down a bit more. But equally, we're in this really interesting transitional opportunity perspective of Stellar on the chart. And I'm going to pull up these indicators here, my RSIs, my beautiful RSIs here. So what can we tell? We obviously had a relatively low periods back here towards the end of December. Mid to end December. We had an influx of investment into XLM. That has waved off quite nicely. And now we're into a switch over on the MACD, albeit slowly at this point in time. This is what's really interesting to me, because it's not like a big drop. We've covered this in a couple of other videos with similar principles. This is what I look for. I don't like to see major switchovers, because it becomes It looks great on the chart, but for me, it's like, okay, this is looking a bit unstable because there's so much influx coming in. This could deteriorate at any moment. So we have got a nice switch over. It's not dipped down like in a really steep mood. That might change, of course, but at the moment, what I'd love to see is almost a quick switch. I'd love to see that kind of like what we've done with, as you see, the blue mark has just gone slightly under the orange. I can't put my hand that way, so that's why I'm doing it that. But I'm hoping it kind of like dips down and then slightly pulls itself back up. I want to see a narrowed gap as much as possible. I don't want to see a significant drop because that's going to take us probably down to like below 20 cents if it does that. But the RSIs are looking quite strong. So here on the 14-day, as an investor, and particularly that 28-day, they're very intertwined. This is why I was talking earlier about the stability of the project. They're both in the similar area, meaning there's that middle ground coming. Okay, can we switch this back? So they're on looking positive in the sense of when I'm looking at investments, whether it be 14 days, i.e. a 2-week trading period, or a monthly one, I love that sort of 40 area. That's just me personally. It's areas where I buy in at 40, and I know when we've got RSIs in 14 days, let's say 70 or 80 in the near future, especially on the month one, I know in my mind, based on indicators as well as charts, 2 elements of confirmation there that I've made double positions, or it's a really good area to start taking profits, and if it keeps going in staggered positions, and the same works on the way down. So 40% for me is a good area to say, right, this is bottoming out. It doesn't mean it's ending. It can still come lower, but we're reducing the risk. Sometimes you see that go down to 35, 32, 28, and that can sometimes look terrible, but actually you might be just talking about a couple cents here and there depending on how long it's taken in that period of time. So that for me right now, like I said, I've been buying XLM under this 30 cent mark, but I've been keeping individual aspects of my bags of USDT in the background to make sure I hit these levels coming down. So if 28-day comes down to that 40 mark, bang. If it comes down further to like 38 and that 14-day comes to 37, 35, fantastic. But the 90 days is really interesting as well. So before we wrap this video up, I just want to pull that back up here just to show you. So we're on 47, which is quite respectable. It's very much in the middle. Again, going back to the point of stabilization. I think I've completely lost my chart here. Don't know where the hell that's gone. That's because I'm stuck at $3. We're not quite that ambitious yet, guys, to be doing that. I have no idea how that's happened. So let's just pull that back up into fruition. Apologies for the absolute mess here. This is what happens when you break your mouse and you have to use a stupid touchpad until the new one comes. But here we go. So 3-month period is very much a good visual aspect of where we've been and where we're going to. So like I said, if we look back here around this sort of end of October into November period, arguably 2 to 3 months ago, we're stabilizing. We've had the big drop down. The RSI, I think back here, if you look on that at the bottom, we've seen the RSI was floating around 90 days on a 46, 47. Right now, 47 still. So showing that stability as it has been doing for the 28-day one as well. Really, really confident perspective from my side. Like I said, doesn't mean it's not going to come down lower, but what I'm seeing is the volumes reducing on both sides, and we're also seeing the movement still continuing downwards because of this MACD switch over. We're probably going to see a wave of selling going on as well, similar to these, but maybe not so many, and certainly not as long, hopefully. So that's where I'm moving to in the sense of my mind, is that this is a great buying opportunity. It's reducing the risk. It's not financial advice. It's what I'm doing personally, in my opinion. But I'm holding out for a smaller drop down to 23, 22 cent. Sounds stupid to be worrying about 2-3 cents, but I'm taking every possibility I can with this project because I think this is going to be huge in the future, and I would love to look back in 3 or 4 years time when hopefully it's over $5, maybe towards 10, hopefully, and I'll be looking back at this opportunity where we were looking at right now as great chances to get obscene prices for such a top project that's going to be coming in the future. So that's very much where we are with XLM right now, in my opinion. I would love to get some stabilization here to really confirm this area that we've got some beautiful touch point data on in the past, to hopefully maybe have a bit of a dip down still, but pull it back up. But I'm always in preparation. certainly under that 25 cent mark, but especially around 23, 24. That's a beauty spot for me. Hopefully we don't come down lower than that, but that's what I'm playing. So guys, let us know in the comments below what you are doing with your XLM right now. Are you buying, are you selling, are you holding, are you excited still? But we'll cover the project in more detail in the coming weeks. What we're trying to do next week or the next few weeks is some revamped aspects of the projects themselves, new introductions for new people that have joined the channel. But we do have obviously the older ones, but as we're in the new year, new roadmaps coming out and things like that as well. We want to keep everyone up to date and informed as much as we can. So until that kind of next video in XLM, which will hopefully be sometime next week as we reflect on hopeful movements that we see here on the charts, we hope you have a great weekend and we will see you in the next XLM video. Take care guys, and bye bye.